Hey, all that time, man. You good, fam? Jeez. We're gonna get started in a bit. All my tracks are hits, no misses. Just my wife, I ain't got no bitches. Even if I did, that's not your business. No. Shout out to Kemia. Check out, man, Shango, man, on Spotify. You already know. My soul is the ops for Christians. Rewind that, I know you didn't listen. Did some seeking and symbolic. Big up Lisa, man. See you. Illusion, I'm your illusion. Speaking ahead like a future be doing. No money's illegal, so we get into it. You got Zero Gun Violence movement coming through. We're going to be discussing the Mother's Walk Against Gun Violence that happened this past weekend, man. So I'm excited to hear about community movements. Big up everyone coming through. Hey. Sure, y'all check out that Kemia, man, on Spotify, yo. Yeah. Yo, shout out to GL Glows, man, saying it was beautiful. Like I assume that you were there as well. I don't know if you know, we got Zero Gun Violence movement coming through. I don't know if you're open to joining the conversation. You know, the invitation is always open. If you want to add on and share your direct experience, we're always open to that. And yes, I did notice there was a downpour rain, but sometimes water, you know, it isn't an inconvenience. You know what I mean? It's cleansing. You know what I mean? Like from a spiritual standpoint, it's a blessing. You know, like there's nothing wrong with a little rain and water, man. It's cleansing, it's blessing. Like we all come from water anyways, you know what I mean? So I kind of see it as this like covenant in a way, you know what I mean? Not to get too deep on y'all, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, man. But yo, Symbolic, man, how's things, man? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing pretty good. You know, once again, I'm just hitting those shares quick, fast. But I want to answer your question with like proper, proper in 3, 2, okay. And all right there. I just have to send word to a bunch of people. We're connecting. Our people are connecting, checking in. You know, asking, are we good? How are we doing? And yo, who we got? Oh, in the house. Okay.
we got the Godfather, man. We got like yo. We got the Godfather community. Salute.
I'm glad to be here, my friends.
Yes, indeed, man. So yeah, we're just getting started with our check-ins, you know, and then we're gonna get right down to business. But yeah, go ahead, Symbolic. Continue.
Yeah, man. So you know, I'm dealing with NFTs, and there's this whole global art movement and so forth. And just the other day, you know, I always say Black NFT art, like how that movement, such a positive movement, and bringing people from the continent, from across the diaspora. And so yeah, they asked me to help, you know, support the movement. So I've been like connecting and seeing behind the scenes in terms of that too. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Hey. Pleasure.
Welcome.
Yes. We got special guests coming through, man, who is also present at the march. So, you know, we're going to get into the march right now, but as we start off our sessions, man, with our check-ins. And so GL Glows, like, if you would like to, you know, like, let us know how you're feeling on a scale from 1 to 10. You know, welcome. I appreciate you joining us today. It's a pleasure.
Hey. Thank you for having me. And shout out to Lewis March.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to meet you again.
Yeah. So how are you feeling on the scale from 1 to 10? Like, where would you say you're on that spectrum there?
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh. I'm doing pretty good. I had a good morning, so yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
Okay. That's what's up. All right. I guess Mr. Marsh, man, Zero Gun Violence movement. How are you feeling, brother?
You know what? I'm feeling good. You know, I'm still recovering from Saturday and all the excitement, all the energy.
Okay.
The positive vibes, the community showing up.
All right.
Despite this, I'm feeling good because I'm just phoning people now to tell them thanks for participating and their contribution to it, and just talking to them. Like the positive vibe even continues today with them. knowing that they made a contribution to the success.
Right.
So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good because my community did something amazing on Saturday, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, you know, and I definitely want to hear like all about it. I was actually like out of town in Algonquin, you know, just getting in tune with nature and whatnot. But seeing like all the footage, you know, pop up on my feed, you know, especially in a time where there's just like a lot of like fear and isolation, a lot of things that are just happening in society that are, I feel like, are designed to like kind of push us further apart. It was nice to see like, you know, images that were bringing, you know, people together. So that was extremely powerful and a blessing. But I'm gonna do my check-in and then we're just gonna get right into it, man, because I feel like there's a lot to discuss. So me, like, I'm feeling like an 8, you know, maybe a 9, maybe almost a 10 by the end of this conversation. It's always a pleasure to have like new faces and you know, now we got some you know, like feminine energy here. You know, oftentimes our conversations are like masculine dominated, so it's always great to have some balance. I love that. And yeah, like, you know, like when I think of, you know, just like the events that took place this weekend, you know, like mothers coming together, I think there's a certain type of like vibration that comes with that. And like the footage that I seen and just having people supporting that is incredible. So, and just like the idea of it raining, you know, sometimes we feel that when rain comes, it's like an inconvenience, but I saw it as more like a baptism. I saw it more as this cleanse, like this covenant, this type of like powerful energy, you know. But I guess like I'm gonna leave y'all to speak to that vibration since you were there, and I'm so glad that the rain didn't stop people from showing up. It really showed that there was a power in numbers and that there was something much bigger than ourselves. You know what I mean? So it was great to see that. But yeah, man, I just want to big up everyone who's coming through in the, you know, in the live. You know, if you want to let us know how you're feeling on a scale from 1 to 10, feel free to drop that in the comments. You know, and you know, we like to keep this interactive. If you were also at the march, let us know. You know, if you're at the demonstration, let us know. Put that in the chats as well. But I'm going to pass it over to like our two guests here, man. You know, like Louis, I guess you can give some context, and then GL Glow, I'd love to hear your perspective of just being a participant and what that experience was like for you. So go ahead, Louis.
So, you know, first of all, thanks again for inviting me to SFA community.
Yes.
The first word in community safety to me is community. It's not police, it's not politicians, it's not media, right? It's not business. The first word in community safety is community. And
right.
What we did on Saturday was bringing community forward in a very bold and courageous way to talk about a subject that grieves us all. Zero gun violence movement works with mothers who have lost children to gun violence. And their agony, their pain, their trauma, their grief is 24/7. You can't lose your 2 children to gun violence and be normal anymore. Every morning you wake up, it's a challenge. When you go to bed, it's a challenge because of the significant and tragic loss. So we said it's about time we bring the different mothers groups from across the city together and create a space for them to speak up, because it's difficult for them to even speak about their experience because of their grief, the mistrust, the judgments and everything going on. So we wanted to create a space. So we brought some groups together. In fact, we had 11 groups represented, community groups represented. 11, imagine that, 11 groups from across the city. We had a group coming from Niagara Falls. We had a group coming from Hamilton. We had a group coming from Ottawa. So we were on point. It was the right time to do this, especially after the recent tragic shootings of 2 community workers, 2 community youth workers. So we came together and we said we're going to do this. And as I said, the important thing about it was creating a space where the mothers could feel safe to speak their to speak their realities, their circumstances. And some of them for the first time actually spoke about what happened. For some of them it was actually the first time publicly they spoke about it. And what was amazing about it, one of the big takeaways for me was, before we go into the nitty-gritty about the event itself, was the fact that they spoke this. And they had people crying. They had people in tears, in misbelief as to what took place. But at the same time, we had one mother, her son, after she said a 10-second interaction with somebody on the street, took out a gun out of his bag, and as he was walking away thinking that everything had been done, got shot 6 times in his back at Yonge and Bloor. Right? And imagine that. And this was just after he had just phoned her to tell her that he had gotten a summer job and they were going to plan a dinner to celebrate that night.
Yeah.
So this is what she carries with her. But what she did is she just turned that around. She said, I can't sit down on the couch anymore. So she set up a foundation in his name and is collecting money to give scholarships to young. These are the stories that you seldom hear.
Right.
And one of my big takeaways was the fact that a lot of the mothers are now part of organizations, supporting each other, but also giving back to the community in a tangible way to help interrupt the cycle of violence. So we're going to get into how it unfolded on the day itself, but I want to hear from GL.
Yes, please.
No, what was your takeaway from it? It
was powerful, even when it came to the rain. And I have actually lost friends. This year, I've lost a few friends to gun violence already. So even to be in the walk was already emotional as it is, right?
Can imagine.
Yeah. So I'm also a mother myself, even though I have not lost children to gun violence. Even just being a mother, and I'm literally watching my kids, and it's a mother shouldn't be worried about losing their child to gun violence, even by bystander, or maybe in the crowd, and then because maybe their friends are involved, and then their friends go and attack my children, and I remember because when I got there, the skies were already gloomy as it is, so I was just like, okay. And then I see a drizzle, and then I remember when they did the prayers from different faith, and every time they were doing a prayer, it rained harder. It rained harder. Even the beginning of the day, my culture believes that when spirit departs, they come back as a moth. So they come back as a moth right after they departed. They come back as a moth when you bury them in the ground, and they come back as a moth when you're thinking about that. I was still thinking about my friend that I lost earlier this year. So literally when I was getting ready to go down to the march, I seen a huge moth out of nowhere in my bathroom. So I was like, where did you come from? You know what I mean? And so then when I got there, and it was raining, we were walking, and I just noticed that everybody was from a different walk of life. We had the motorcycles, we had the Somali mothers, we have mothers who are grieving, we have mothers who are from the community that has seen the trauma themselves. They were there, some of the mothers I knew personally that was trying to save another child because they took in, and that sense of community is it's still there, but it's not talked about as much as before. At least personally for me, I seen it more. It was more talked about back then, but now I feel it was the sense of community is kind of I don't know, I still sense it, but it's not talked about as much as before when I was a child, because everyone wants to raise their child themselves because society or what you hear in the news. So then when we're walking, I'm seeing people, you can tell they're watching, and even as we march on both sides, there's people from all types of all different types of walk of life. Some of them I know, some of them literally just came out, some of them literally used to be part of that life. You know what I mean? So when I see them all gather around for the same cause, you don't understand how powerful it is. And we need more this type of awareness because, a lot of the city, it's and even discussions, Ray, those conversations, you see mothers talking to the bikers, you see youth talking to the mothers themselves, and they're just they're talking, and we don't just to think about it, because I've seen youth where they don't have families at all. I know them personally, and I could see them finding mentors eventually. Some of the people that are acquainted with, maybe So, oh, definitely got emotional by City Hall. By the time we reached when the mothers were sharing stories, yeah, I was done. I was done. I was just like, shake my tear, you know?
Yes. No, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Like, I know symbolic. I know that there's some comments in the chat. I don't know if you want to, if you can get those real quick.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I know we got one going back a little bit. Miss Tings, I feel like community workers are targeted or end up getting in over their heads, being a hero. I was there. It was very powerful and impactful. Big blue heart. Let's see if we got check marks. We got mentions there. Teal Live. My heart goes out to the mothers. Definitely, definitely. And we got some emotion being expressed, some prayers. I'm so grateful for, I'm so sorry for your loss, said Sandra Leanne, right? We got Black Simon. Yo, big ups for coming through, Black Simon. My brethren, long for many years. Connection to everything is beautiful. Connection, yeah, most definitely. We got some 100%. Let's see how many more comments. We want to make sure that we're including everyone in the conversation. So now, Ms. Things, I have a friend from Jamestown that saved a kid's life after being, am I reading that? After being
Probably being shot, yeah.
Being shot, right. He was so grateful. She helped him, but she's traumatized, depressed, withdrawn, even since she moved to another city. Yeah, and so we got Ray saying it's moving. I take it when it comes to, you know, doing these types of things, coming together. Yeah, mothers are the warriors, he goes on to say. Big ups. We got Tanika Insight in the house, the mom of my kids. Big ups. All right, y'all. That's we're up to speed.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like before, I want to touch on like a topic that was brought up before. Mentioned about like community workers, you know, or feel like community workers are being targeted. And you know, as someone like myself who's been on the front lines like for forever, and I've worked in various communities throughout the city, like as a provincial youth outreach worker, and then as well as with Stolen from Africa. And I can tell you, man, like I've been in many environments that are extremely like questionable and are just not safe. And I'm pretty sure that brother like Louis March can attest to this too, because we're brothers who are on foot. Like, you know, we're not like driving around or whatever. Like we're like like foot soldiers, like really in it. And you know, with these recent events, you know, like you know, Sam, like rest in peace, and the other brother from Regent Park there, it really just kind of like brought me into this like, I don't call it like a depression though, but just had me in this like state of just like, yo, man, like this is traumatizing, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like we get so numb to it. Like it's one thing getting like, you know, targeted. But then it's like when the people who are out here like serving and putting their lives on the line and that really care about community are now also at risk, you know, it becomes something, you know, like challenging. But like Brother Louis, like, you know, as someone who I see who's always around, you know what I mean? Like what does that mean for you? Like, how do you feel about these type of experiences?
So first of all, let me say that I made a statement. I started saying it last year, that as a youth worker, as a frontline worker, start looking at it differently. You're not on the front lines anymore. You're on the firing line because you're going to take shots. I've made that statement publicly several times. You're not on the front line, you're on the firing line because you're going to take shots. But I wasn't talking about gunshots. I was talking about community people, funders and stuff are going to take shots at you. So when this started happening, I'm saying, holy cow, right? You're on the front lines, but you're also on the firing line. For you to be effective with your work, you have to step out of the normal way of doing things. And it's high risk. It's high risk. But I'm telling you something, straight up. If you're not doing this work, our city would be in a worse situation. You don't have a meter that says, well, you know, you've saved so many people or you've prevented this from happening. But I know that if you guys are not doing the work that you're doing, Toronto would be in a worse situation. So gravitate towards that. Instead of pressing pause, this is where we need to step up our game. Because the work that you've done was stolen from Africa. The work that our parents have done has made a difference in somebody's life or in many people's lives. And that's why we need to continue this. This is not the time to press pause. This is time to get even more involved in what we need to do. These kids need help. They're begging for help. And unfortunately, it's never there at the right time. You know the score. You know when you're going. Like, I've known situations where, you know, a youth worker sees two people fighting and they pull out knives. And according to their procedure, they're supposed to back off and call the police. But this youth worker said, hell no, I'm going to go in there because I know one of the youths, I'm going to de-escalate it.
Right.
And that's what he did. And the fight was squashed.
Right.
If he backed off and called the police according to his procedures, what would have happened? So it's a balancing act. But we have to do this work. We have to do this work because we are making a difference. Unfortunately, there is still things where we can't be, places where we can't be, things that we can't do. So it's not that we're working above our head, right? No, we're in the trenches, right? And we sort of expect that something will happen.
Now,
right?
Yeah, go ahead.
But we cannot be drawing back.
Indeed. Like, I'm just curious to know, like, you know, because you mentioned about like funders and some of our youth workers are part of other organizations. And, you know, there's for me, from my experience, I don't speak for myself. There's always been like a disconnect between like management and those are higher up. Basically, those who are just not really like in tune. You know, like what are some ways that these, like, you know, maybe funders or organizations can really be more in tune and more supportive of like youth workers who are on the firing lines, as you mentioned?
That's a big time question. We got something, we call it the funding Olympics.
Okay.
Because a lot of these organizations need funding.
Right.
So the funding Olympics is whether it's government, whether it's corporations, whether it's groups that give out funding. They know who's going to get the gold medal, they know who's going to get the silver, and they know who's going to get the bronze in terms of giving the money out. The organizations that they're comfortable with or they're familiar with. And then the rest of the money is left on the table for everybody else to fight for. So in order to fight for it, you have to compete. What we call it the Olympics. You have to compete with organizations to get the funding. And it's the one that wins that match that day presents their story in such a way. So you get your small amount of money. But what have you done to get that money? You've attacked 4 other community organizations and you were the better of it that day. But you still have to come back and work with those 4 organizations. Okay? So we call it so the way the system is set up, the funding model doesn't allow us to reward those groups that are doing the best work. What we do is the ones that are rewarded are the ones that tell the better story.
Yeah, that's true.
So this is where we're at. So the funders have to acknowledge, and I think I mentioned that just recently, they have to do a better evaluation job.
Okay.
Who is delivering on the outcomes that they promised? Not on the storybook version, but on the streets.
Right.
Who are the youth willing to validate and say, this group is the one that really made a difference in my life?
Okay.
Speak to the people on the street to find out Who is the one that's making a difference in their life? Instead of speaking to the Olympians, let's call them Olympians, right? So the model has to change, and to be effective, you have to step outside of the rules of your normal organization, because those rules are set up to protect the organization's name, to limit risk, and to make things safe. But when we're doing, when you're a soldier and you go on the front line, like it's fair game, but you need to be there to win this war. We cannot be in the back office while everybody's in the front office. We cannot be in the back office, right, writing reports and counting numbers. No, our sleeves have to be rolled up, and we've got to be ready.
Okay, so I want to get into some of these comments in the chat. Then I have a question, because I want to bring it back to like the demonstration from Saturday. So big up Kofi's art. You know what I mean? You should go check out some of his artwork. He's incredible. You know, he's sending some orange hearts and whatnot. You know what I mean? We got Race. He's saying, like, you know, the pen is mightier than the sword. Words are powerful. We got Tanika, man. Big up Tanika, saying that's facts, man. The status quo rarely makes a true impact. You already know, man. You know, like, we out here. We got Tolevand, hope I'm pronouncing that correct, saying facts 100. Salute, man, the real leaders. I see a lot of facts 100s. A gorilla emoji. I like that. The first 7 steps says we know the score out here. Alexa saying 100%, man, real solutions. Why are we not funding this more? Real talk, you know what I'm saying? We got Racy saying when to intervene. What else do we got? The first 7 steps says we will be labeled and targeted, which will make it will make the situation worse. That's true. Like, you know, like for my, because I no longer work for organizations anymore. I work for myself, but it's true. Like when I was like part of an organization, which will remain unnamed, you know, like when you speak out against certain things, you know, you do become targeted and kind of seen as like an agitator or whatnot. But it's like, I was hired because of my connection to community, because I'm like the people I'm serving are kind of like me. Like, there's like this mirror. That's why we're able to relate to them and connect with them. That's the whole reason why I was hired, as opposed to somebody else who's not connected. And you know, whenever I would make suggestions, it would always be like, well, you know, like this and that, and so it was always a challenge. Let me see here. I'm going to keep continue so we can keep the conversation going. Alexa's saying that funding model is sad. You're delivering the most effective solutions and difference. Government of Canada should fund this by millions. I agree, man. You know, like there's a lot that could be done on the ground, and we're going to keep doing this regardless. You know what I mean? Because this is what happens when we care and we're truly connected to community. But just to go back to like this funding, and I want to go back to the you know, to the demonstration. You know, you mentioned that there was like organizations that were present. I mean, I have an idea of who's going to be there, but I'm curious to know, like, you know, in terms of like people who are labeled as like, you know, like even some of these like bigger funding bodies and bigger organizations. I'm curious to know like who was present, you know, like who really shows up to these moments in time, you know, like I'm curious to know, like, was media presence? Was there any kind of support, like things of that nature? I know that alternative media, I know, Louis, you're always with the camera. I'm always with the camera. I know we're going to do our thing. But I'm curious to know, like, what was, like, highlighted for this very sacred and important moment in time?
Okay, so somebody said to me, so we reached out to media, to the people that we're in contact with. We put out something on their media database or whatever it is. But somebody said, Louis, keep in mind that when there's a shooting in a neighborhood, they will be there while the blood is still hot. But when you're doing something to stop this shooting and this bloodshed, they're never there. When you're organizing something that is trying to address these issues, so it seems as though they're just sitting down waiting for the first drop of blood to fall, and they send a crew. But for this, I know CBC was there. And what they do these days is that they might send CBC, but then they might share that information with CTV or with whatever. But CP24, even though they run a story, they were not there with their cameras filming to get content. So I am just happy that the people that came out, and if the story is being told on social media,
Yeah.
and I'm just happy that we're in this time and age where we can control the content and the narrative and not depend on the media, because even the traditional media, sometimes they leave out the truth, the real stuff.
Mm.
They cleanse it to present it into their stuff. So in terms of who was there, if you just can give me a couple seconds, I'm going to go over some of the organizations.
Mm.
One was called the Red Balloon Foundation. Basically, the person that was shot and killed, his favorite color was red. The mothers set up a foundation to collect money and provide scholarships.
Okay.
One was called Bill for Bachma. The guy that got shot was from a skateboarding club.
Mm.
And now they're trying to build skateboarding facilities around the city in his name to keep people engaged in something positive. There was Hope, right, which is Eddie's group, helping offenders on parole excel.
Yep.
We had One by One movement. Yeah, we had Communities for Zero Violence. We had Mending a Crack in the Sky. They went out and they built a banner, 12 feet long and 3 feet high. 5 people had to carry the banner. And it was in dedication to this peace walk. And you should have seen them on the street with it. We had Zero Gun Violence Movement. We had Develop Me Youth. We had Dear Black Men, Mothers of Peace, right? All of these people are committed to this thing of what can we do better to save these kids' lives so they don't have to go through the suffering that we did, right? But in terms of media, the last thing on my mind, it was the participation of those organizations that was most significant. And one other thing I'm going to mention is where the mothers speaking from their heart.
Yeah.
About their grief, their trauma. But they also, you could see the resilience of them because they have turned all that hurt and pain and grief and trauma into creating something positive to help others. So while they were bearing their hearts out, they were demonstrating their resilience to do something with it. And then the young people, the performers, the material that they presented was just mind-blowing. It was so relevant. But when you had young people doing it and you had the mothers speaking, that's where things were coming together.
That's amazing, man. Can you speak more a bit about like the performances, like some of the people that were involved, like any kind of like energy vibes? I don't know if GL Blows, you want to jump in and add on, or some of the performances you may have seen.
There was Spin, and then Spin.
Okay.
Yeah, there's Spin. There was Jada. There was Eddie performed too.
Okay.
Of everybody, those are like so many. There's so many, and to know that everyone who performed, like, they're impacted by gun violence, just to show you how much gun violence does impact the whole entire city. You know what I mean? Like either they were like in the field doing the work, maybe they have lost someone to gun violence, maybe their loved ones, maybe so like all the poetry, the dance, there was dancing too, everything, it all came together. At the end of the day, they came for like the same cause, no matter what kind of experience they have went through. So
And one other thing that I'd like to say, and this is what really took it over the level. It took it like it was beyond my wildest expectation. There's a group, a bikers group called Out to Ride.
Okay.
I met them about 6 years ago at a community event at North York Community Center up in Kipling area. And everything's unfolding the way as it was supposed to. And then I heard this loud noise. 15 motorcycles revving up their engines and pulling up into our event. Well, not our event, the event, but it was scheduled. So we knew the organizers knew they were coming. But 15 bikers on those big Harley Davidson things, right? Pulling up, right? And they started taking off their helmets. And I saw black people.
That may be even more powerful.
That's a hold on a second. It's not. And I'm checking, and I'm saying, oh, it's not one, it's not two, it's not. They're all of them. I think they're two, right, at that event, and then they invited the kids to come and sit down on their bikes and take pictures, and they go. So I was connected with them from that time. I couldn't drop them. I had a Zero Gun Violence Movement poster with me that everybody was signing. They came up to me and said, Louis, we need to take a group picture with that poster. Right? So I can go back to my probation officer and tell him that we're doing good things in the community. And they all lined up to take this big picture, right? With the Zero Gun Violence Movement poster. Because most of them had been involved previously.
Right.
And joining this back. So we've been in contact. This time I phoned them and I said, look, we're doing this on Yonge Street for the mothers. What's the chances of you coming out? Right? And leading the peace walk. And I was back and forth just to make sure, because they thought that I wanted them to come, park their bikes at Yonge and Bloor, and then walk with us down to City Hall. I say, hell no. You're bringing your bikes with you.
Yes, sir.
You're bringing your bikes with you. I don't want you parking because they weren't sure where they were going to park them. I says, no. You ain't parking nothing. So we were supposed to start at 3 o'clock. They showed up on time, and they were ready. So we went to introduce them to the police because they were on their bicycles, you know.
Right.
And I had these I had these bikers. I said, I hope they don't feel outmatched, right, you know, because whatever. But the conversation was good. We told them what the plan was, and the bikers pulled up at Bay and Bloor, and they rolled down Yonge Street. Anybody that was on Yonge Street that they knew we were coming, because they were revving up the bikes, the engines, like Jill, tell them what it was like to you. Tell it how did you feel?
Yeah.
Like, it was just awesome to have them in formation.
Yes.
Leading us down Yonge Street and putting up the peace sign whenever we said, shouting out the chants and stuff. But it was done in such a fashion that the sights and sounds on Yonge Street for that period of time, it has never happened before. Right? It has all changed. And of course, everybody's coming up and saying, oh, we need to contact them. We need to get them involved in our community stuff. And then when we finally got to City Hall, they spoke and said who we are, out to ride. And they said, look, if you need us at your events, just say the word. And we'll even bring donations too. That's what they said. They didn't ask us for money. They said, we're going to give you money. Imagine that. So when I talk about community at the beginning, this is what community was about. So as we saw the subject material, which was very tough to do, we saw resilience. We saw community. We saw youth engagement. We saw the rain that everybody saw as a blessing.
Indeed.
Look, between me and you, I was soaking wet. I didn't even know. Somebody came up to me and said, Louis, you're soaking. I am? Like the rain didn't bother me. It didn't bother people. We saw it as a blessing.
Yes.
Oh.
Got a spinny circle. Was
hopefully lots of heart.
I want to thank Louis for that too, to actually invite the bikers to actually ride on their bikes and like lead the way.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sure. Go. You can go ahead. I guess while he's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, just to see them lead, it was such a powerful movement, and everyone had their peace sign up, holding their banners, because bikers, like, they're gonna capture everyone's attention. They're gonna be like, what's the loud sound? So they're watching. So now because they're watching it, because they're at the lead, now everyone's paying attention to everything that's like after. And there was other protests. I think there was a lot of huge protests too that was like going on that day, right? And yeah, so by the time we got there, by the time we got to Dundas Square, I think everyone had their they just kind of move aside. So
yeah,
good.
Yeah, no, I like how, I just like how everyone just kind of, like had their role, their position. Because I can just imagine, like, you know, like the bikers coming through with their bikes, and like people like see that, it's like, oh, what's going on? You know, that draws attention, and then that can be passed over to like the mothers and whatnot. But like, see, I was gonna ask Louis a question, but maybe I don't know. Actually, you know, it's symbolic. I know that there were some comments. If you maybe want to grab some of those last ones.
Get down to the comments. Sure. Racy says these are great questions. We got, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, Meheret. It's actually disgusting how media responds. You got a broken heart there. Racy again, Racy, no more blood one day. True that. Alexis says, this is so frustrating. Media will show the drama, promoting fear. Politicians jump on that fear to promote vote buying, but useless policies. And the majority of Canadians believe this? Yeah.
Hey, man.
For real. Jump down, Alexis. We may need strategies to ask the media to cover the grassroots movements and shame them for showing only blood. Right. That's clearly in response to invites, but yet limited pulling up. And that said, the first 7 steps says pull up. Miss Ting, I wish I was there. The kids were too tired from the Freedom Rally. Okay, so yeah, some I don't know if it's FOMO, but you know what I mean? I'm feeling some of that. I wish I was there with my 360.
Yeah.
I was not able to make it, but I'm feeling the same way. But I'm really glad we're able to have this conversation. So thank you so much, both of you, for being here, because this extends it. It propels that moment. And so it's really like just this vision in my mind, and then to hear the backstory is really great. So we have 7 steps, bruh. I feel like the man. LOL. I don't know what that was referring to. I don't know.
I feel like he might have been there, or maybe one of the bikers. I don't even know, but
yeah.
He was there.
Okay, that's what's up.
Right. Oh, big ups, yo! All of you who are there, yo! I did want to. I don't know if this is the time, but I was curious, like, what your thoughts about how this, like, one you mentioned that these bikes at the front, like, this is. It seems like it could be a thing, like. Heads know the black bikers, and this is, it feels like that could started something right there, and then what if you maybe speak to that a little bit, but also how this might be, if so, do you feel that this is going to spark these different organizations and community working in the future? Do you feel it'll have that effect?
I certainly do, because one of the mothers that was with me, she had lost her 2 sons to gun violence. So she walked up to one of the bikers and said, "Oh, you look so cute." And she was in her moment, right? She was touching them up and saying, where did you come from? And I'm saying to myself, but the people connected. But for that mother, if we can give her that moment,
yes,
where she can feel good and she can and the thing is, the way they presented themselves, they were happy to be there. They didn't come there asking for money. They came there and saying that we will be there at your event. We will make donations. When do you ever hear that? With a smile on their face, right? And stuff. So I'm hoping that it does inspire other community organizations to realize the benefit of working together and stop working in isolation, in vacuums. The strength of this event, the success of this event, was the fact that so many community organizations joined in, right? As I said, from Hamilton, from Niagara Falls, from Ottawa, mothers had come from that far.
Right.
the group mending the crack in the sky. I said, what the heck does that mean? They said, well, when we come together, we can even mend the crack in the sky when we come. So, and they came with their banner. They actually came on a bus load of them.
Jeez.
Somali mothers from out west.
Wow.
We had a group from Regent Park. So I'm hoping that this event inspires others, because not only did the mothers have their voice and their space to speak their realities, other organizations realize the value of working together to address some of these community issues and not be dependent on government and politicians.
Yeah, man. And that's what I'd like to add on to what Symbolic was mentioning, how when these events pass and then us, having these conversations kind of gives it more life, you know what I mean? And just, it keeps the conversation going. And the fact that we have the documentation, we can use that, to further the conversations. I know that I'll be bringing it up in my workshops, you know what I mean? For my youth groups, just so that they're aware. Because sometimes, young people may not know entirely what's happening in the community. And this is a way to really show in a tangible time. And, as we're talking, it just kind of made me think I don't know how to mandate this or whatever, but it would be kind of cool to have a policy that if you're a community organization, you need to when these events happen, you need to at least send one or two representatives to come out and support and plug into this vibration. You know what I mean? Because if that's what we're doing, then we really need to show and prove. And yeah, it might be inconvenient, but this is what needs to happen. Well,
a lot of people are going to see. A lot of people are going to see the video footage.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that when they see that, a lot of people are saying, "I wish I had been there."
Yeah.
And stuff. Look, out of this event, the amount of response, that positive feedback, people are saying we should have one for black men. We should have one for men. Right? This should become an annual event. Right? So the wheels are already turning as we move forward. The entertainers,
yes.
Look, I can't say this publicly, but we were going to give them honorariums.
Okay.
And they said they don't want an honorarium. They want to donate it to one of the causes.
Wow.
Right, but don't tell anybody I told you that, right? But this is what community is about. Right? This is what community is about. And when you asked me at the beginning how I was feeling, I'm feeling 9, 10-ish.
Yeah, yeah.
Still in the afterglow of this. So, because it was so powerful. And I'm hoping that, it is used to inspire others to realize the value of us coming together. Because there's people out there that actually do care. Right. Bring them all to the table. You'll be amazed at what we can accomplish.
Facts, facts. Now, I know we're kind of coming towards at the end of our session. We got about 10 minutes or so. But I kind of wanted, again, to center around this idea of the mothers and, community work centered around the mothers in particular, and I feel like there's some power in that. It just, I guess I just want you to kind of elaborate just on that energy specifically about.
Well, the thing is, the thing with mothers is that our history, no matter how far you go back, the mothers have been the anchor, the core in the family and in the community. They've always been that. And when they speak, everybody listens. That's our history, right? Right now, we're in a Western North American capitalist society. And it's not about that anymore. It's more about what you can get for yourself, how much money you can make. Those are the drivers, right? So, but they also carry the pain, the grief when somebody is lost. They're the ones that people go to. So we wanted to create a space because the amount of support and services that they get from government has an expiry date on it. So their grief doesn't finish when the funeral is done. That's when it begins, right? When everybody leaves them and they're there, right? Who's going to provide them the therapy, the support, the mental health supports and stuff to deal with it, to stay human? We have mother groups that don't like each other. Your son was involved, my son was not involved.
Mm.
But the grief and the pain and it's still the same.
It affects everyone.
How do we bring them together? And that's why we called it a peace walk, because I wanted them all to come together. We had the Somali mothers. You know, we have the beef between, say Dixon and St. Jane and Finch, right? We have those beefs that's been going on. How do we bring those mothers together and say, look, you're the ones that can help us, right? So for us, the mother plays that critical role, and we wanted to create a space where they could smile for some time. And they were smiling yesterday, even though they were grieving. But they saw that their grief was shared by others, and they saw the young people acknowledging their pain and grief, but also as young people, they were also carrying the same as they've lost friends. We had people like Brooklyn. We had people like Aretha from Develop Me Youth. These were young people that were at the forefront, right? In terms of MCing, the entertainment, but the mothers had their space, right? They brought their pictures of their sons. They brought their pictures with statements about what they need. They had their time. This was the Mother's Day. This was the mother's time to say their piece. So in our community, we shall never forget their voice and the importance of their voice, and we must give them the opportunity to feel safe and speak from the heart, because that in itself will force people to change the way we do things.
Proper, man. I appreciate all that. I don't know, double check to see if there's any comments that we missed. No, I think we got everybody, man. I don't know if there's anything like what could be done, I guess, like moving forward, like now that we have this energy, because I'm always interested in like how can we, you know, keep this circulating. I don't want to wait until like something like negative happens and then, you know, we're back in that space. Like I really like this energy of positivity, of unity, of like diversity. Like what are some like practical ways that we can kind of keep this energy going, do you feel?
Whenever we have community meetings with young people, invite the mothers. Invite the mothers into the space. Yeah. Let them realize that we understand the grief and sorrow. We might not know it exactly, but if you let us know what you're going through, it might change the way I act tomorrow. Right? Bring the mothers into your space. They should not be depending on government to help them deal with their grief and stuff. We as community can do that by providing safe spaces for them and being willing to listen to what they go through. And that might become a deterrent for future criminal activity, understanding the sorrows and the trauma. And it's not only the mothers, it's the children and the community that also suffers. Bring them into the space and hear them out. So whether you're going into schools, whether you're going into community centers, bring them into the space and let them feel valued. And not all of them are ready for it, but the ones that are ready for it, bring them into the space, please.
And I like that a lot. Personally vouch for that. I could personally vouch for that because there's been spaces where everyone was from different like angles. So for the ones who are perpetrating the violence to ones who are the receiving end of the violence. But like there's also common grounds. But you have to like provide a space to actually spark those conversations. So you understand both sides, right? So what Louis was saying, like I've seen it worked. I've literally seen it work. Even more like IG lives about the social media, more of the marches, more of the community space. I could personally vouch for it because there's like literally families from opposite ends that have came together and now they're actually working together because of these spaces. But media doesn't talk about it. The public doesn't talk about it. You have to be in those spaces to actually see it for yourself. And the government needs to fund those ones. They need to fund the grassroots. They're not, because there's been programs that was like that. Like, you know, there's been programs that have worked. Like even bringing opposing neighborhoods together, like doing a mentorship, like even though it was one Jane, like literally like those like high school students from one end mentoring the younger kids and doing like a big brother, big sister thing from like the north end. And it worked. it really worked. Because now when they grow up, they could go to each other ends and be like, yo, I know this person. Yo, that's like, you know, my little broski, that's my sis. Like, don't bother them. And things like that, like a lot of things have been cut. When the government does these cuts to like save money, it's literally benefiting other people who don't have to deal with this. They don't have to sleep. They don't sleep in dealing with all the violence or all the politics and stuff. So like, I feel like Lewis deserves way more flowers, way more flowers. People Lewis deserve way more flowers because they're there. And like for the funders, you need to show up to these spaces that like you have to show up. You have to like actually be there. Don't just be given money and just expect everything to be all handy dandy. You know what I mean? So.
Indeed. No, thank you for sharing that, and that's making me think of like what I want to do, you know, moving forward, right? Because it's true, like when mothers are around, like the energy just shifts. They really do. You know what I mean? Even if they don't say anything, just be present there. Like, you know what I mean? Like even some youth may stand up a little straighter, and you know what I mean? They may not be cussing as much. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's true. There's a certain energy that comes with that, right? And I feel like giving more space to their voices and just being at the table, you know, and having that energy circulate, I think is a really like powerful and a very tangible way of moving forward and just bringing that energy there. You know, I agree. I think so. Yeah, I think that's
the neighborhood moms, we need to support the neighborhood moms.
Yes.
Because a lot of the mothers from different neighborhoods, they have taken in youth while they provided like shelter, food, all that kind of stuff. Respect them. Let them hear. And some of them have lost their children too. And because of that grief and loss, they have taken on a bigger role to take in other youth that could have been led astray. But because they were there, becoming that parent, becoming the mother for them, it has saved a lot of people. It really has. I feel like it's out of their own pocket. So I feel like they should be recognized a lot.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I've seen that, you know, we probably all know, and it's not exclusively mothers, but a lot of times it's mamas that like people that have
grandmothers. Mothers, grandma, auntie.
Exactly.
We call them the hood aunties, you know. They're
very,
like,
very.
Taking it, yeah.
That's a very good point. And to add, what was the previous one? I was just thinking, you know, as you're speaking, the effect of bringing them together. I think Louis did mention it, but just what really stuck with me is that being in that space and hearing that voice, hearing those stories, like someone can, moving forward in their lives, will think like they'll remember that, or they may remember that. Hopefully it'll be an experience that could shape their behavior in the future. So, and lastly, I just think that, you know, we've talked, Brother Logic, about, you know, the balance. So Glows, thank you for being here, for that, you know, expressing your, you know, experience and wisdom. And I think that this is like this subject in terms of you good fam, that maybe we can balance it out. So I think we've had a revelation. Like, to me, that's like, yeah, that's like straight up. We should invite some of them for check-in, because that's what we're doing. So that's the point.
Yeah, like I could attest to like having like a mother's like saved me, you know what I mean? Especially when I was like in a different path. It was literally a mother. Like even if I have like my conflicts with my own, it was the other mothers that actually took me in. So instead of me going to like a different path, it was a mother that actually helped guided me, and their family. So like both mothers and fathers, even the fathers, especially, like, you know, fathers get involved, mothers get involved, families get involved. You don't understand how powerful it is when you provide that family vibe for a youth. And I'm speaking as a youth, right? So.
No, like, thank you for that. That's so true, you know, and it's true. Like sometimes like we may not be able to access our parents or have those kind of conversations for whatever reasons, and then that's when the community steps in. Like I'm a definite product of that, you know, from, you know, like mother figures and father figures, you know, like I have lots of aunties and uncles and so on and so forth. So you're absolutely right, and I'm glad that you mentioned that too, as a reminder, you know, just that everybody can do something. You know, like we may think that you know we can't do much, but it's true. Just being there, showing some compassion, showing some care, that goes far. Like you don't have to start an organization per se, or you know, be out everywhere. Like you know, like just showing that compassion to somebody and checking in, be like, hey, like how you doing? You know, like that goes so far, man. So that's what it is, man. With you, good fam, and that kind of brings us up to like, you know, the end of our session. This was super powerful. Like, oh my gosh, like I got to big up Symbolic, man, for suggesting this. Like, you know, I messaged him like the night before, and I'm just like, yo, like what are we gonna talk about? And he's like, yo, there was that march on the weekend. Like, reach out to Louis. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna message him. And then Louis came through like without fail as always. He's like, what time? He's just like, what time? And then and so this whole conversation is like super organic, and this is what I call like being in the spirit. You know what I mean? Like where it's like we don't really plan it, but it is kind of planned in a way. You know what I mean? So thank you all for sharing space and you know, adding on and bringing this energy. It's totally incredible. I know there's some last like comments in the chat. I know Symbolic, if you want to get those before we sign off.
For sure. Yo, so we have Ruckus. I hope I've gone back to the right place. Ruckus Facts. So they can get rid of the trauma. Okay, talking about the mothers and in the mothers and children. And big ups DJ Ruckus with your vinyl only. Hearts and Fire coming from With Love Tika. Let's see what else we got. Alexis, has Bill Blair ever showed up? That's a good question. He showed up when it's time to get into ganja after he. Anyways, I won't even go into that. That's for another day, people. But let's see what else we got. With Love, Tika says, chosen family that helps to keep us accountable. Right. Ruckus is sending big up to everybody. And Alexis says, amazing. Thank you. And SFA community. Did you put that in?
Oh no, that's King Spade, man. Big up King Spade.
Oh,
he's
adding.
Peace to you all. He's saying big up to everybody. Yeah.
Yes. Big up everyone in the chat, everyone here. Yo, respect.
Salute, man. But it's all good. Shout out Kenya, man. It's all good, man. You're gonna have to catch the replay, man. Today was a powerful conversation, which you already know. Yeah, man. So that's what it is. But we'll get this last comment from King Spake. I know he always drops these gems that just get me like, damn, you know, like get me out of the matrix. But what he's saying now, he says you cannot ask the enemy to help you, to help you. Know yourself. That's why we're still under attack mentally. So that's exactly what we're trying. We're not trying. This is what we're doing right now. Looking at how we can be accountable to each other and keep pushing forward. You know, so big up, you know, the King Spade for always, you know, keeping us in check and keeping that critical mind going on. It's super important. And yo, man, we're gonna sign off like that, man. Big up to everyone who participated, man. This is our weekly check-in on Mondays. You good fam, every Monday at 11 a.m. right here on SFA_community, man. So for those who just joined us now, you can catch the replay. It's going to be on our feed in a short moment of time. So
let me just say something quickly. If people were inspired by this, go on social media, take a look at what took place.
Yes.
There's a lot of mothers that were not able to make it out. Still reach out to us. We got space for you, right? For the young men, take a look at it. Repost the stuff. Connect with Zero Gun Violence Movement. We've got many organizations that were there that we can find a connection. You don't have to create another organization. Just go there and work with the people out there, support what's going on, and let's turn this. Let's amplify it 10 times. And this is where the mothers and your viewers, you know, can also come in and help. And we're not depending on the enemy.
Right.
We're going to study the enemy. We're going to know more about the enemy than the enemy knows about themselves, and that's what we're going to use to defeat them.
There we go.
So we're doing this our own, and that's why I go back to the first word you mentioned at the beginning of this show: community.
Yeah. Peace. All right, man. Well, thank you. Big shout out to our special guest, man, Yonge Glows, and we got Brother Louis March always here, you know, hosting this with Symbolic, man. My brother every week, man. Appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? And That's how we're gonna do it, man. Keep bringing it for the community, man. Keeping these conversations accessible, man. So that's what's up. Till next time, y'all, have a great week, man. Keep this energy flowing, and yo, man, let's continue to support and show compassion towards each other, man. That's what's up. All right,
Okay, respect it, huh?
and we out.
Thanks
Man.
again.
Peace.